Hello and welcome back to the channel. India have just won the ICC T20 World Cup in the West Indies, and joined with me is Lucas Smith in person for once. No more Wi-Fi problems, hopefully. So you said South Africa would win, didn't you? You backed yourself. Wait.
Nah.
Do you know what? Just because we're going with this kind of what if with knocking Australia out, India to win the World Cup. Go on, let's do it.
If South Africa get past the semis, they're winning it.
It's fine.
So you
We agreed
said
on India. We agreed on India.
we agreed on India. You said I think India are going to win.
Yes, correct.
And I said, if South Africa get to the final, they're winning.
Yeah.
So clearly, none of us know anything about cricket. But at least we got the finals, right? So,
Exactly, it's true.
But that wasn't hard. They were
No.
clearly the two best sides in the tournament.
Yeah.
Both unbeaten, I believe.
Well, yeah.
I mean, technically.
Yeah. Well, India had
until
that,
the final.
Yeah.
India
the
had.
result.
Of course.
Wash out.
So they were by far the best teams. Bowling attacks. They kind of did in different ways. India basically smashed everyone on their way to the final. South Africa teased everyone, and said,
apart from the semi-final, which would have been considered to be the
apart from the semi-final, literally every game up till then they were like, actually, we're going to do this the hard way.
Yeah,
which was so weird.
A moment in the game where the opposition was probably favourites.
Because normally it's the other way around. You normally go, South Africa always like smash everyone, get to the semi-final, make it tense, and then lose. But it was weird this time. They smashed the semi-final, and everything else was tense before that.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's talk a bit about the team that obviously won. India, they're bloody good, aren't they?
They're so good. Honestly, their bowling attack is just unreal.
Before we talk about the players who are at the World Cup, let's put on some of the names who weren't there. So Rinku Singh,
Shubman Gill.
Jaiswal was there, I believe, but didn't play.
No, didn't. God, there's some bloody good players who were involved.
So those three weren't there, and just imagine like their B team is just about to play a Zimbabwe tour. It's
quite scary.
But it was no surprise that you put India in, despite your South Africanness. But you can understand why. The best side, Bumrah is a cheat code.
I think it was inevitable, to be honest.
It was.
They were going to win at some point.
You
would have hoped.
Yeah.
Like if they hadn't, it would have probably. I think that would have crushed a lot of Indian hearts. To lose another World Cup,
it would have been funny.
It would have been funny because it's always funny when the clear favourite just gets absolutely
agreed.
But I think look, their class just outshone everyone else. I think, like we said, their versatility throughout their whole team, whether it be their batting lineup, how they go about it in the different stages of the game, or their bowling attack being so versatile, with the different types of spin and left arm, right arm, and obviously their pace attack, which is unreal.
We predicted that Kohli would have a big part in this tournament, which he did in the end, but not until the final. So we had him as our top run scorer, but it turned out it was actually Rahmanullah Gurbaz, who pretty much, I wouldn't say because he didn't carry Afghanistan, but he had a massive part in it, because if you look at the games, when Gurbaz scored runs, Afghanistan won.
Yeah.
When Gurbaz didn't score runs, Afghanistan didn't win.
Yeah.
So it was very direct. It was like Gurbaz was the main guy. If he scored runs, they would get to a decent total. I'm talking about against a good team, not Papua New Guinea or whatnot, with all due respect. But they'd get to about 130, 140, and then their spinners would just make it impossible to chase on those slow, low wickets. And then, but Afghanistan made it all the way to the semi-final. Did you have that there, or did you think, the USA were more of the overachievers? Because Afghanistan are a very good T20 side, but still.
Look, I think Afghanistan have been building quite a good and strong reputation for a while now. But I think getting to the semi-finals, even with how well their team probably suited the conditions with their spinners and batting lineup as well. I don't think many people expected them to get that far. I think Super 8s would have been my prediction. But even then, they had an incredibly hard group to start with India, New Zealand, or even before that.
Exactly. So they got past New Zealand, West Indies in the
initial groups.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get past, but they got past that group. They smashed New Zealand. New Zealand were terrible,
they were awful.
they're all. I think that's the end of a cycle for them.
Yes.
Williamson,
Agreed.
Southey. I don't think Bolt's going to play for them.
Well, he's not contracted anymore.
Exactly,
So,
and there's no reason to play.
Exactly.
Williamson, there's no reason for him to play T20s anymore.
He's not. For me, initially, he wouldn't have even got in my New Zealand team.
No,
I just think their top order's too explosive now to have him in.
Yeah, I just think that I think they're going to lose a lot of this generation of.
I agree.
Golden. It's gone.
Yeah.
I think now the time's over. Rachin Ravindra is going to probably be the main man from now on.
Yeah.
But talk a bit about the conditions which New Zealand clearly struggled with. Afghanistan made good use of. India, mate, they've got anything for any conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
What were the conditions? Well, firstly, we'll start with New York because that wasn't a cricket pitch.
That was, I mean, look, that was like playing. Well, at least from what I've heard from a bunch of the Acton players playing at Gunnersbury.
Yeah.
But no, I think
Similar.
Look, I think the pitches were really interesting throughout. There were, in general, there was one fairly high scoring pitch, which was I think in St. Lucia.
Not all the time.
It was just
and the odd game. And one night game in Dallas, so it was really a very low scoring World Cup.
It was. The pitches were very apart from New York, really, where there was a lot of life in the pitch, a lot for the seamers.
It did everything.
There was something in it for everyone, but
not the batters,
except for the batters.
No, there's nothing for them.
I think the top score was just tad over 120. Which tells you everything.
The highest individual score was like 52.
Yeah, and it must have been off 50 balls or something. Like it was ridiculous. Yeah, that was Miller's 50, wasn't it?
If you had anything above 100, it was a winning score.
Yeah, literally,
it's crazy. Literally, at one point you had Nortje bowled on that wicket, Bumrah bowled on that wicket, Shaheen and Haris Rao. Like I understand, as club cricketers, we struggle facing 55 mile an hour on
that. Yeah,
imagine at one point Nortje was bowling 4 overs.
Yeah, straight.
4 overs, 2 for 6.
It's
literally impossible to him. He just bowled short.
Yeah.
And he either went through past your nose or stayed low. So it's basically impossible to hit.
Yeah.
It was almost illegal.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best viewing.
No.
Like
interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Great
interesting to watch, but no, not fun to play.
No.
I'll tell you that.
I mean, it's all right, but I don't want to see that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to change it, especially after such a high scoring IPL.
If there's an odd game that's low scoring, I don't mind it. But if it's like, guys, we've changed T20 cricket by just making the pitch so bad.
Yeah.
Do you think that brought in some of the lesser sides? As in, I know the USA got close in a couple of games against India. We got close against India.
Yeah.
Obviously, they beat Pakistan, but in that New York pitch, Bangladesh got close to South Africa as well.
Well, everyone got close to South Africa, to be fair. Exactly. But I think, it definitely, when there's so much in a wicket, it's almost like you see in India when they overdo it too much. It actually makes it more of even more of a coin toss. So
it makes it just mad.
You don't actually know. Even India, like if you're playing India in a test series and they just produce an absolute dust bowl that spins square from day one,
it's like
you don't actually know who's going to win because it's not in the favor of either team. It's just kind of impossible to play on.
Exactly. If we're going to talk about favoring sides, let's talk a bit about India.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to say obviously that they won the World Cup because they were the best at cricket.
Yeah.
Clearly, and they had Bumrah and all these players who performed on the big stage. Also, Sky's catch.
Oh mate, that was unbelievable.
Did he touch the rope? It looked.
Yeah. He definitely touched the rope.
No, your heart says he touched the rope, but your head says no, he's fine.
What a catch under that pressure.
It was an insane catch. It'd be hard to call that off because he.
That would be so hard.
You've got to give it to him. But what was it with? So we'll start with firstly, India before the World Cup knew if they're going to go to a semi-final, they would be playing in Guyana. Yeah. They knew that 100% at 10:30 start because obviously Indian TV markets. I understand that, but Indian TV markets, need that money, blah, blah, blah. Fair enough. Yeah. It's just the bit that one semi-final had one set of rules and the other semi-final had different set of rules. Now, in the end, it worked out okay because both games got completed. But at one point in that England game, when it was raining, there was no reserve day and you're like, hang on a minute. India could pick their squad knowing exactly what pitches, what places they were going to play on come the semi-final and the latter stages, which other teams just didn't have that luxury. So at what point does that become just a bit too much?
Look, I think the important thing is obviously India has such a big influence in world cricket.
Yeah, of course.
But for me, that just grants. Obviously, I'm not saying that England didn't deserve it. They were most definitely the best team at the World Cup, and the pool of the players they have, that eventually they were going to win a World Cup.
Yeah, of course.
But having that when you've got such a strong team already, just kind of puts it even more in your favour. So for me, I think, look, I kind of understand it, but I think it did ruin it a little bit.
It made it a bit iffy. Put it this way: if India were not as good as they are at cricket, it would have made it a bit like, hang on a minute, they're getting helped out here and stuff. But the fact that they're so good kind of just made it a little bit less. Yeah, because I'm like, well, they would have.
They're going to win it anyway.
Yeah. Although we could have said that before. India were very good. Yeah, their neighbours, Pakistan, were awful. Thank God that they got out. Thank God they were out in the group stage, because no one wanted to watch that. No. They were rubbish. So they played 4 games, I believe. No, 3. One of them was rained off.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, correct.
No. I think they did play all 4. So they beat Canada and Ireland, and they lost to India and USA. But really, it started off with losing to USA.
Which, I mean, look, that was
funny.
Incredible. I was just watching it, and for me, it was one of those days where it just felt like nothing was going right for Pakistan, and at no point in that game did I ever see Pakistan winning. It was quite a weird.
It was really funny. Do you know the funniest part was? So Mohammad Amir was Pakistan's best bowler during the actual game. Yeah. Comes to Super Over, you just decide I'm going to bowl everything down the leg side. It was like an experienced T20, world-class players, Shaheen, Naseem, and you have
bring back the old blokies.
And then you got Mohammad Rizwan, who's like one of the premier T20 batters, and will get nicked off by like a software engineer. Wow. But a bit more on USA. Tell me, how far do you think they? Obviously, no one ever thought they'd make it past that. No. But really, was it that big of an achievement? Apart from one. So you could have said the Canada game was 50-50. They won that, fair enough. So they had one massive win against Pakistan, which helped them get into the next round, as they had a rained off game, which also helped. But then they got there and smashed. So I don't actually think USA did as well as people think.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think that given this was, I believe, their first appearance in a world event, I think getting to the second stage is very impressive.
Very good.
Especially beating Pakistan, obviously, who didn't have the greatest of tournaments. But look, that's still an achievement. Pakistan are fantastic. They've got so much talent.
It's an ex-World Cup winning.
Exactly.
Team. Yeah,
it's a fantastic side.
Last year's finalist.
Last event's finalist. So look, I think it's an incredible achievement. But you're right. When they got to the Super 8, they looked a little bit out.
You could tell that they were. But still, the fact that they've won 2 games. You still have 2 games at World Cup. Same amount the Pakistan one, bear in mind. Exactly. So, and a lot more than Sri Lanka won. Correct. Because who were rubbish as well.
They underperformed as well.
They're terrible. I thought their bowling attack, Dikshana, Patirana, Hasaranga, all these, I thought they just never scored any runs.
No, they couldn't.
They could not. To be fair, they had to play quite a few games in New York.
They did, but I think it was, especially in New York, it was a case of just trying to dig in, and because we saw, like you said, get above 100 and you're well and truly within.
Miller was anchoring.
Exactly. That tells you.
Miller and Klaasen were anchoring, and you're like.
Miller was actually obviously South Africa played their first 3 games there. His strike rate was under 100 after those 3 games.
I know,
which says it all.
I thought Klaasen had forgotten how to hit 60. it was like I was worried. I was like, what am I watching? But
it was worrying. But
it was. So obviously South Africa as the finalist.
Finalist.
It feels weird saying that, but how does it feel? Is it obviously losing a final is never fun, but getting past the semi, what is it now? How does it feel?
I think it's obviously progression. And obviously we mentioned, the likes of Lecoq and Miller, that might be their last one, but I think it's still a relatively young side. So I think there is definite cause for optimism in the future. I think, that there's so much talent in South African cricket, and I really think that get out. I thought this would be the year after getting to the finals. Look,
as I
can't
said,
take it away from, yeah. I can't take it away from India. I think they were brilliant. And they deserved it.
If South Africa had won that final, it would have been a shock. I mean,
I agree.
Despite
the
quality, anyone beating India is a shock now, and they weren't far off. That run a ball with 5 overs left, 6 wickets in hand. But I think once Klaasen,
that wicket.
Once Pandya got Klaasen, I was like, because Janssen was in next. It was a tail, and Bumrah still had 2 overs left.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like,
you worry.
And I was like, if Miller doesn't hit a few here, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
But do you know what really went wrong? Remember Miller took a single off the last ball of the 18th over?
Yeah.
And then Maharaj dotted out the next 3 against Arshdeep Singh.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that was a bad call.
I think that's definitely a bad call. But in the end, do you think...
Look, I think if
it was your best chance?
No.
Will it be your best chance?
No, because
I see it as Klaasen at his peak, Miller coming to the end, De Kock gone. I don't see him playing again. Rabado will still be there, Nortje will still be there. Bowlers, I think, will be right.
Will be fine. Yeah,
but can you replace the batting firepower and still compete at upcoming events?
I think so. I think it's just a case of giving those players like the likes of Brevis and Stubbs. Stubbs obviously still.
But he'll be more.
He'll be a much more mature player by then.
The T20 will be a big
exactly this
year. Like we saw, Bartman was.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't.
He was stand bowler in that.
Yeah, he was.
Did well in the World Cup.
Exactly, he was brilliant. And finally, we'll go into obviously the next World Cup is in India, so we'll just write India's name on the trophy already, as we apparently did 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But any other teams you think that'll look decent, look better, or will be worse than this time? Let's start with Australia, who we predicted to knock out. But
I mean, I think Australia will be back. I think that's just inevitable. I think as well, give Jake Fraser a go 2 more years, and
of course
that batting will strengthen. I still think, like obviously in India, they probably won't need as much of an angle.
No,
but pitches are just ridiculously flat.
But
I think they'll be there. I think Pakistan will bounce back definitely.
I have no idea. Well, I have actually no idea what they're going to do.
You don't think? I think that
they could be even worse, and they could be the best team in the tournament. I genuinely have no clue.
Yeah, but it is quite like a Pakistani thing to.
They couldn't. Surely they can't be that bad. Clip this bit for 2 years. Surely they can't be that bad.
Pakistan to win the 2026 World Cup. You heard it here first.
Oh no. Well, but Australia, had they picked Steve Smith, I think they made a conscious decision that no matter what, even though he might have been useful on the type of player,
they're just going with their formula.
I think they went with their formula, which is go really hard all the time, which didn't work here. You know, they had Glenn Maxwell anchoring against Afghanistan. What's going on? Although Maxwell against Afghanistan,
he's always in the game.
Yeah. Once he got out, the game was over basically. But they could have used someone like him. I don't know. Australia just felt a bit
sort of underwhelming.
Yeah. England. I know they got to a semi-final, but
England were poor. England were really lucky to get to the semi-final.
Who did? So they beat full member nations. Who did they beat? Just the West Indies. Exactly. So they got to a World Cup semi-final with just beating one Test-playing nation. All their other wins were against.
But out of the Test-playing nations, probably the worst.
Yeah. All their other wins were against, with all due respect, Namibia, Oman. They got rained out against Scotland. They beat the US and they lost to South Africa.
Yeah.
And they beat the West Indies and lost to Australia. Yeah.
I think that was quite a disappointing performance from England overall. And to be fair, for me, I see again it's quite a top-heavy team.
What do you mean by that?
You got a lot of people who want to open the batting.
Top 4 all want to open,
and I think that is an issue. And I just personally, I don't think that there's the quality there to win the World Cup.
I think there is in the bowling.
The bowling,
I know Rashid.
Wise, Rashid's still at the peak.
But I don't think their batting wasn't consistent enough, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't. But I think that's the risk you take with going, and I think that kind of the same thing kind of happened to Australia.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of blindly following one mantra when realistically it was a tournament where you needed to adapt especially
on the pitches.
The fact that the World Cup was so spread out, not so many different venues,
so many different countries. Every pitch was literally completely different, which is why a team like India, who have the resources, the quality of players, and the different type of players, they could literally change every game, and someone split in. Kuldeep didn't. When did Kuldeep first play his first game? Not until
it was a Super 8.
Yeah, it was, and he comes in, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 he's straight in.
He's unbelievable. I know he didn't have the best final, but incredible. To be fair, he's bowling at class.
Yeah. Akshay Patel bowling to Klaasen was scary.
Yeah, that was.
What
dangerous.
So obviously we spoke about Sri Lanka, Bangladesh were mid. New Zealand, we spoke about them. They were terrible. We've spoken about that's the end of them for a while. Who else do you think? The West Indies, home side?
Maybe. I think the West Indies could. I think again they'll push for a semi-final spot.
What are they missing? I think seams.
I agree.
Quality seam bowling.
Although Alzari Joseph did have a very good tournament. I was impressed with him.
He was impressed, but he's still not the caliber of bowler.
No.
By no means does it need to be Jasprit Bumrah.
No, but
every other major nation has, you have an Archer, not this World Cup, but you have Shaheen, Naseem, Haris Rauf. You have India obviously have Bumrah and Pandya bowling really well. Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood. Yeah. I think all those top sides they do need.
Yeah, you do need a high quality pace bowler.
Even Afghanistan, they had obviously they're not world class, but they're still two very very good seams.
Yeah.
And they could honestly be breaking into especially in T20s. Naveen al-Haq, who I think was one of the most underrated players in this tournament.
Yeah.
And Faruqi was brilliant with the new ball.
Unbelievable.
But in the middle overs and the death, I think Naveen al-Haq actually played a massive part. Him and Rashid Khan played a massive part in Afghanistan going that far.
I just think with the next World Cup being in the subcontinent, for me, actually, the West Indies bowling for me was below par, and and I think they do lack a world class spinner as well. I think they've got
Hussain and Moti.
I feel Hussain, they're decent.
They're very effective for what they do.
But I feel like they probably need they're lacking that star quality in the bowling department. I think
that's where Pakistan fell short as well. Obviously, apart from the fact that
spin.
But their spin is awful. Shadab can't bowl.
He's not been bowling.
He didn't bowl. He's literally unbowlable.
Yeah,
it's quite sad.
He used to be a good bowler. I don't know what he got the yips or something. I don't know.
He's had a load of injuries and then he's just lost everything, like his shoulder, his hips, his action. He basically just tries to bowl really flat and fast now, which doesn't work anymore because people know that. And just rock on the back foot and slap it. But next World Cup, India have won. All good. Anything else?
I think it was quite a different World Cup to what we expected. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The only criticism I have, and obviously
the game.
This is the only for me, obviously, it's how you bring other nations into the game. But having there was a lot of games there between the lower ranked teams that I didn't particularly fancy switching on the television and watching.
No, I did fancy watching like a massive team versus small team. Yeah, I like seeing murder.
Exactly.
I like seeing carnage,
but for me, there's little point. Obviously, some of the teams like we saw the US even compete, and I think Ireland was quite a below par tournament. I think they've got some good players, just not good enough to.
But they've got other problems outside of cricket as well.
But you look at the likes of Papua New Guinea and Uganda, and I just don't think it's obviously in the moment it will be very good, to get that exposure for their players. But I just don't think that.
I think maybe just because the first World Cup, we'll probably let that by. These teams, they keep building.
Keep improving.
But this is the biggest World Cup that's ever been in terms of teams.
Yeah.
Essentially, what the ICC are trying to do is get closer to the Football World Cup of having 32 teams.
32,
And
that's growing. That's the next World Cup's 48, I think. The Football World Cup.
It is. It's mental. But essentially, they're trying to make it an actual world event instead of the last World Cup where there was 10 teams. No West Indies, no Ireland.
Yeah.
You go to Test play nation. There's no West Indies or Ireland. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But I see what they were trying to do, and I think the next World Cup in India is not going to be like this. Absolutely. There'll be a lot of higher scores,
Agreed.
a lot more
flatter pitches, small boundaries,
and a lot less 1:30 to 4 p.m. watching times. But
agreed.
As I catch up on all my missed sleep, I'll do that now. And thank you very much for joining us, Lucas.
Oh, my pleasure, mate.
See you all next time. See you later.